Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And my voice is sexy, but it's not for a sexy reason. I was actually raped and I screamed a lot and I sound like this right now. But I took action around this and I will tell more when it's possible. Meanwhile, I have no intentions to kill myself. So you know what it says when it says so, right? Anyway, I was just listening to Victor and Lada, and they're still on live, but it was this almost little child in me kind of, oh my God, I need to talk about this, I need to talk about this. So, actually, Victor said, turn your gaze away from like big pharma and all this stuff, turn the TV off, but at the same time, you need to face things and not to run away. But this is such a Neptunian saying. And I want to talk about the context of Pluto and Aquarius. Saturn is in Pisces, and how we have a chronological development from Saturn Pisces and Neptune Pisces to Saturn Neptune in Aries, with Saturn being the ruler of Pluto and Aquarius. So let us begin. First of all, happy Mercury Cassimi. It has been a very powerful for me in terms of communication and so on and so forth. So Mercury is still retrograde. We're going to have a direct motion. And but the moon was just triggering the opposition to Mars, and I took one giant step, very big step forward in my life. And Neptune is with Rahu, so we have even more accentuation of future, what is to come, the dream, but also the inversions on the dream, anything that holds us back to make our dreams realized. Okay, thinking about Neptune and Mars, Mars ruling Rahu. Neptune is the giant dream, which you don't even know if you are imagining, not imagining, channeling. What is it? Mars is taking action, and we're taking action towards our dreams. Whether we like it or not, we might even be pushed away by circumstances, pushed away from stagnation, from fungal stuff, from things that have gathered in the nervous system, from not addressing taboos. Okay, the Mars is opposite Pluto. It kind of forces a direct confrontation with, first of all, our own taboo topics which we may have fears around. Okay, people get controlling about something that they fear. And Saturn in Pisces accentuate espionage, drugs, and movies, and long distance travel, shipping companies. There's something going on with that, I guess. Especially of the type of espionage that is global. Okay, liquid assets. So it's a wealth that is like a tsunami, a giant wealth, waves, oceans. And Saturn is both a reality check on that and also religion, okay, because it's still Pisces. It's a Jupiter ruled Neptune. So Saturn is kind of reality check on that. But also, it kind of confronts us with things. If I take back to when Jupiter was in Pisces and I was just, celebrating the Hanukkah with the family, and I'm not particularly religious, but enjoying the many rituals and ceremonies that religion has to offer, with a very light-hearted, open-minded thing, then Saturn is kind of like, hey, what about the red blood on the white cloth, what symbolizes marriage for Judaism? That's freaking rape. What about genital mutilation? What about satanic ritual abuse? Religions, also atheism. So Saturn is reality check, okay? Hey, what about the fact that most investment in pharmaceuticals are masquerade, and when they have a real life-changing cure to something, budget stops. Hey, remember what you did in 2017, okay? What you found out in 2017, okay? What about that? What about your thesis proposal, okay? What about implementing that? And so Saturn is kind of forcing us to face what Jupiter is just like optimistic about. Gratitude is lovely, but what about witchcraft to get in the way of your dreams and manifestations, okay? What about double agents? Okay, many things, the duality of Neptune. We get a reality check to everything. And I think now it's more obvious to me as Saturn is going direct or where it was retrograde. Because in the past I said, well, Saturn is like, it's the Lord of Time, and it's trying to create a boundary in a place. It's like trying to count the waves in the ocean. I was like, what's the point? But it's also about, hey, what did you know about the BlackRock? It's Bank of America, but he also owned Bitcoin. Okay, and I'm like, oh, I get what Saturn is doing in Pisces. Now I get what Saturn is doing in Pisces. Okay, aligning my toe structure. Okay, Pisces rules feet. Now, Saturn is going to, before we even talk about Neptune, Saturn is going to continue on to Aries. So we talk about war, blood, head, sovereignty, and as ruler of Pluto. So exposing the many ways in which our sovereignty has not been respected. Pluto is also hidden. Pluto in Aquarius is programming. Okay? The way we have been programmed. And it doesn't have to be a giant thing like MK Ultra. It's also social engineering. It is also what science we've been exposed to. How we've been exposed to science in a way that what qualifies as science. Okay, the democration question. We're going to have a lot of that, especially when Saturn is in Aries. Because Aries is the sign of the intellect. It's the very Kantian side where the self can comprise by the logos what is reality, and this was preached by a priest. Okay, so we are going to be attending to the reality check on that. Okay, the reality check on sovereignty. Okay, good morning. We've been programmed as well. So, but we don't want to give up sovereignty. So how do we create sovereignty within this situation? Neptune rules diseases that are hard to diagnose, and also Pisces rules that in terms of medicine. When Neptune reaches into Aries, it becomes the diseases of blood, inflammation, fire diseases, and heat diseases, excess yang. Okay, so a nervous system and what it pertains. So Venus is also Mars, which is Aries. So we might talk about sexual related stuff, not just STDs, but nervous system and sexuality is going to be a huge topic. There might even be technology, like people being able to feel each other's orgasms, something that I know has been developing, but also menstrual cramps, like simulators of menstrual cramps, that has been on. And when we talk about Saturn in Pisces, so think about when people go through hidden invisible abuse, okay, that creates inflammation that drains the body, and that creates inflammation. For example, the PTSD, we know it as later fibromyalgia. Okay, so those are hidden ways to get you to rely on the medical field, and then it's just, compounds. And so we're going to be discussing those type of medications were associated already with the inflammation factor. Okay, so for example, there are a lot of mental issues that were associated with nutrition, okay, inflammation, like Mediterranean nutrition, but then we are also going to have a reality check on food. For example, salmon, okay, it's very healthy food, unless how it's comprised, what are the levels of mercury in it. We're going to be getting a reality check on minerals. We're going to be getting, we're going to be both idealizing the regulation on food and the regulation on blood-related things. So you say, what the fuck is that? First of all, I don't know. Maybe it's going to be reality check on beginning of persecution of people who use satanic ritual abuse. Okay, but the color red that we see And that can go both ways, both as increase of Satanism and Mars, okay, kind of like the horns. But hey, we've already seen that, so that can be a karma to that as well. Neptune is a duality, so we might see a little bit of both. Okay, we might see a lot of people being diagnosed with food-related inflammation diseases. And why do I say food? Because inflammation is something we deal both on the spirit and the matter. And with Neptune, we are going to explore the spirit and Neptune causes of inflammation. With Pluto, nervous system. And we're going to get a real reality check. Things that we are taught are hereditary, Saturn, might be programmed, might be witchcraft. What is witchcraft? How does that thing work? Okay, we're going to have a lot of things. I remember when I even addressed the kidnapped people, which is Pisces, right? But also Neptune. And I said, what? I ran into, just by chance, that remote viewers are not used to locate missing people and kidnapped people or solved cold cases anymore. They used to be. Okay? I was doing essay on ESP in China, Russia, and the USA. And I got another thing to tell you, because I noticed they have a religious law. In the CIA, it was very difficult to train people, because both the fact that ESP or remote viewing is a sense, so you can't test it, and the fact, which was challenging to scientifically prove it, but hey, we talk about senses, right? So it's a different epistemic standards, a different way to understand it. We know, way to reach consensus. And the second thing is that people began to fail the training because they were afraid of religious persecution. And so we see how for the West adopts a Christian Judaic, because there are a lot of Jews there as well. So Christian Judaic standards to spirituality, and they also ascend, unfortunately, sexual assaults, so that you will run into a self-help video that tells you, go back to Jesus. Now, I love Jesus. I always loved Jesus. I grew up on Gospels. I am secular. I'm possibilionist. I just think that the concept of unconditional love, okay, love is patient, love is kind, love it keeps no records of wrong, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth, is something I really deeply connect. And again, keeps no record of wrong doesn't mean that it doesn't correct wrong. Okay, just to make that clear. And but that being said, there is a utilization of religion here to use people for remote viewing and to take them away from anything that is not that religion, so that now the CIA have less problems to use remote viewing. But there's another thing, and if you watch Gigi Young's interview, you would know, people tend to lose the senses when a remote viewing and stuff like that, when they're being malefically used. They tend to create a lot of problems, okay? And so it also, when you torture people to do that, then the picture is incomplete. You have to actually heal trauma, so heal sexual trauma, heal that, get to will and consent, and then you can pull the tantric from a way that is actually respected and honored. Then you are enjoying the world and acceptance in the world. It doesn't play so much to global control and enslavement of humanity, but yeah, that is just so. So if you didn't know that, then you wouldn't think about this, but I was addressing this issue, and we're gonna see that, unfortunately, we're gonna have a reality check on use of targeting individuals using remote view. Okay, so this is crimes against humanity, and you think, oh my God, there's nothing I can do about it, there's nothing that, and I was thinking about that. But then there is a whole other topic, which is, first of all, 7, but also Starlink. Okay, that satellite company that sees literally everyone everywhere and is used to target people, to take pictures and cut them to porn, to try to control the people. Okay, try to limit to where people be, and it's all agendas that people will not go outside, will cover themselves, will be afraid to post on social media, will hide their pictures, okay? Because there's this question, I don't want to be harvested on. Okay, but you also don't want to be contracting yourself so much so that you simply die and perish, okay? So we're going to have to find a way to set a boundary here. And we're going to have a dual things, okay? Both the widespread pandemic of these topics and masses of people tending to that. So that's how it works, okay? Nobody knew. And I go back to the Cold War veterans. The Cold War veterans, they had medical experiments on them, tortured and so on, and then were mind controlled. So this is a lot of why they don't have housing. A lot of them, most of homeless in America, I think, are either veterans, whistleblowers, or something like that. And they're being framed as drug addicts, as people that make problems, as criminals, as whatnot. That's being framed, okay? It's like housing first is the solution to that. And but it's also housing first if you're not taking these drugs or that drugs, but I referred earlier this morning. So a lot of the Cold War issues, because medical warfare, Neptune, Mars, okay, medical warfare, we already see that with Rahu Neptune, is going to get karma. So we see both the widespread use of that, the attempt to create a certain structure, regulations, but also Saturn is karma, very simply put, okay? And Saturn and Mars are not friends, although Mars exalts in Saturn sign, and Saturn is very strong in Scorpio, but they're different teams. So when Saturn comes over, okay, think about when Mars is in Saturn sign, is excellent to change structure, because Mars is about changing, transforming, breaking down things, and founding them, and Saturn is structure. Okay, when Saturn reaches Mars, it's about time to take action that stands the test of time, but it's about to face the implications of your actions, good and bad. It's sort of like to see, what if I amount to in that area in my life? Okay, so Saturn places restrictions, but those restrictions get Mars to do what? If the restriction is good and constructive for Mars, Mars will accept the restriction and begin to act and create something that stands the test of time. If it is not, so think about the people that were sentenced to jail, okay, and they write a book in jail. Whereas you think about people sentenced to jail, but they go to slavery in jail. So what do? All the slaves begin to what? Rebel. It's not a Uranus thing per se, but it's a Mars thing. Okay, thinking about the breaking of the jailhouse, karma to the jail house system experiment. So we're going to see both. Okay, constraints and depth of people, or social credit scores, depth on people for who they are, which is going to create a giant problem, and then it's going to get a counter reaction, because Mars is not inactive as per Saturn, but we have to keep in mind that Neptune can bring need to surrender things. It can bring need to manifest things, to allow ourselves, if we have a longing for something, to feel the longing and be in the longing. What do we long for? And then it miraculously manifests throughout time, okay? So this is a part of the story of consecutive signs, where there's a story that's going on here. Mars is also real estate, and I was talking about liquidation of assets, and so you want to think about all the people that have been invested in real estate, and they're like, for some of them, most of them, I think most households, they're like, what are you invested in? I don't know. I mean, that I talked to someone and they told me this and they told me that. And I said, okay, safe risk, safe for that. And for some people, maybe life insurance. Just today, a person who was owner of some medical insurance company was murdered when he was going to a conference of investors. I haven't looked at that too much. Haven't astrologer that did look at that. He had the moon 22, by the way. So, and she knew that because she knew Nicola Stojanovic. But there's a lot more. Pluto hard aspects to moon apparently can give that as well. For if the moon is 22. Yeah. So we're going to be having gigantic karma as well, because your investments, the bubbles are going to pop. Okay, for example, Teva Pharmaceutics. I remember when I was a kid, before 9 years old even, then we had a neighbor, she was from Chesky, and she was retired, and her money was invested in Teva Pharmaceutics. So she got a little income from that, and she lived good in a fine city, in a fine neighborhood. Not too fancy, not too big, not too small, okay? And she had a good life. Of course, yes, she was a widow from ITF, but that's, I remember, okay, that is safe investment. I have person from family, I'm not in contact, just I was seeing on Facebook, they work also for pharma. And a lot of people, when they look for a safe job, then pharmaceuticals, or being both in pharma or being also at the pharmacy, okay, it seems like a safe job, right? It's like, yeah, people always need it, okay? You won't have no job. So people look for to do something that is always needed. And we're gonna have big, gigantic karma about all the money that's invested there. Real estate, laser, okay? Neptune is waves. Laser waves used for warfare, okay? It's not just Kela David, but any such thing. Cities that are destroyed by laser. And people that are invested in it. You might be invested in that. You don't know. Hell, I might be invested in that. Okay, there's some insurance, something, some that money might go there, and I don't know how much access do I even have to give to change that. And whenever I try to tend to that, it's like, poof, I get sick. Poof, I get this. So Neptune is also these invisible things that to do with programming, where you actually tend to things. Teeth, Saturn, gum issues, okay, like inflammation in gums. I tell you that, you're gonna say names. Names. Saturn is name. I'm sorry, Mars is name, Saturn is teeth. I got Saturn in Mars sign, so I've been tending, okay, to my teeth, and the names came out. So whistleblowers are gonna begin to say names to treat the gum diseases, because they won't be trusting the doctor anymore. And even when you go to the doctor and you need to do something for the teeth or surgery, then the anesthesia, it doesn't work if you are hungry, if you are completely stressed. So people are going to have to tend, first of all, to the fact that they are hungry, and you have to have good food for the teeth, and we're going to have reality check on the food, okay? For example, veganism and meat. How much of the fact that I can't be vegan is because of pollution of the food, even when it's supposedly organic, and how much of it is because I genuinely need to consume meat? I don't know. And how much of the meat is meat I genuinely need to consume? And how much control do I have over what I eat if I need donations of food or I eat recycled food, okay? So this is going to push people to another place, okay? What is point of interference? Aries is a great point of interference, okay? I got second house Aries with a Mercury in it and Saturn in the ninth. I coined the term point of interference when it comes to everything, okay? It's something like, I can't control it. Okay, what is your point of interference? what can you tend to, even if it's just by thought, okay, even if it's just an intention. And this is a situation where they're going to go to for the hidden things or more holistic things. And there's a lot of mixed stuff there. For example, I had the Helix Vagus, talk about now Pisces is feet. If I go to holistic teachings, so this tends to be people that blame other things and circumstances in their life, when I actually tended to that, I noticed the memories that came in for like, I could not stand in the Mistar, which is temple, but I didn't know that. That looks like a North Korea thingy that all the students could stand in. So first of all, it was not a disease or a curse, but something that kept me from doing karma that of concentration camps, of stuff like that. And it's not like, oh, I'm bulletproof. No, it means that my path is to tend to go to sway from there. Okay, I cannot be, I cannot be employee. Okay, all these things also did not serve in army. And it was not so much on my agency or conscious choice, it was just the circumstances, just circumstances. And the thing is that there's something about this life path where you do need to correct, of course, okay? But it came late in life, and it brings in a lot of things. And just as I began to write about this, there was somebody who writes about putting cameras in school to take photos of the children. I'm like, not in the bathroom where they could be raped by someone or something like that. I'm not saying inside the cell, but when you enter the bathroom, but inside the class. And then to be severe and this punishment for the children. And I'm like, take your North Korea, get the fuck out of here, okay? On the very day that I was tending to that, I saw on Facebook somebody who was writing that. I was like, my God, okay? And so you see that also in holistic medicine, we're gonna have a lot more tending to things in ways we didn't see before, okay? See a lot of Nikes out there. Nike, lovely, but what about separating the toes? I learned the history of where it came about as people wore the triangular shoes, this pyramidal, get us the cult, to show that they are not slaves. That enslaved them mentally. But it's also true that the working in the field should not be industrial. When I do the half moons, how do we forest Sahara for the half moons, right? Okay, people began with Uranus and Taurus to grow gardens, to grow gardens that are wild. And then began to be problems with the municipality, okay? They try to trim down the wildness. So we, with Saturn moving into Aries, we're going to take that to the brain, to inflammation-related diseases, which are also mental diseases. What people call bipolar was a lot inflammation, nutrition, but also society, medical welfare, having to assert your boundaries, so much so that you need to go to extreme explosive rage, and then of course you're depleted, to say no. Like, I will not begin to list to you the places that I had to go to even begin to say no to my psychologist attacking me sexually using the astral projection, okay? And Neptune is also that which you couldn't talk about. You think about the Cold War veterans. Before we acknowledge the PTSD or anything psychological, people like, get over that. You weren't even physically hurt? Then what do you want? There are people on a wheelchair, okay? And that stuff, okay? Everybody that said that stuff, now if people said that stuff because they were stupid, they might get the karma for the stupidity. But if it was intentional, the karma is going to be way more severe. Okay? We might also find people that are on a wheelchair that shouldn't have been there, and it has to do with mind control. It's infiltrating our system. Pluto is going to uncover. When you do, it's like Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. This is going to be attempts to fool all the people all the time. And so masses of people attending to a topic, it's like a hive brain. They find solutions. Okay? So, for example, with Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, and people en masse beginning to channel their vaginas, learn about how to actually have sex, because they didn't know that before. Okay, most people are having rapey sex even with themselves, and it causes trauma. Okay, it causes physical trauma, emotional. It's a process. A trauma we talk about for the body, even when you're not ready for penetration, even if you're man. Okay, this is trauma. Even if you masturbate. Okay. That bugs nervous system, that creates candida, that creates fungal infection, that creates neural diseases, that creates disorders in sleep, that creates communication problems, that creates money problems. All of these things. Okay. People begin to tend to that, so begin to be tantric. And then you self-pleasure in yourself, you find out you're not alone. So if it's pleasurable, it's like, oh, that's very nice. And then you say, oh my God, that person married. No. Bye-bye. Thank you. But then you find out there are many people who have been practicing that for years. There have been closed cults. And they use this completely differently. They use that to siphon energy from people, to switch life paths, to do things that are like, what the fuck? Can't we all just orgasm and get along? So, the things that I have been experiencing, it was like, what is that? And at first you learn about energy, sex, astral sex, so there are tantric courses. There was, of course, a lot of fraud and hoax around this and rapes around this. But then there are just the weird dumb fuckery stuff. And then people think, oh, it has no karma. People don't feel it. First, like, people don't feel it. It's like, okay, they feel that. Then they're like, people don't care that people feel that or something like that, and they don't want it. Then what happens? People have to take action. They have to take massive action to enforce their boundaries. So think about Neptune as lies and deception. So you think about a person that, let's say, is being mind controlled. They can't say anything to anyone because they'll tell them, take the pills. What are the pills? Murder. Okay? And so they begin to talk around the topic. A lot of the Me Too cases were saying sexual harassment. Okay, 9 times out of 10, the person would never get into any situation if there wasn't mind control. They're not going to tell you that because they don't want to go into the psychic. Okay? But I have tended to that, and schizophrenia is curated by housing first. So a person is having a house, a place to be, independent of ability to work, and then to believe the patient. That means psychosis, okay? What people call psychosis, psychotic on that don't interact with psychotic. What is it? Pluto in Aquarius, we begin to ask, what is it? I'm channeling. What am I channeling? Okay? It's a question. It's like, where is this coming from? It's a question, okay? And so a lot has been beginning to be exposed. And people begin to be connecting the medical issues that they've been having. And if they haven't connected that with housing by now, because Neptune Pisces is more like long distance travels and refugees. So they were thinking about genocide, this or that. Aries is going to be to the money. House, real estate, natural resources, land, soil. Okay? It's real estate. Everybody's going to know. They're going to know. Okay? So think about the real estate used for sex trafficking. Okay? Gigantic karma around that. Now, the thing is a dual thing. There are going to be a lot of attempts to turn real estate into that. and hospitalize people. Neptune, 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 Neptune. Okay, drugs, hospital, drugs, pharmaceuticals, drugs, organized crime, drugs, trafficking, drugs, human trafficking, drugs, espionage, which is espionage. Okay, and add to that real estate. So we're gonna see that, unfortunately, a lot, but we're also going to see what the natural karma for that. So if you're invested in that, like if you could be invested in real estate, and it makes you invested in that. You're gonna be seeing, what are the side effects of the pills that they do to silence people that escaped violence? They get the person to be violent. And it's under pills. Okay? They did not make, if you look at the jail system for Norway, even person did homicide, they get education, they get this, they get that. They got there somehow. Housing first and open dialogue, okay, believe in the patient in Finland. They got there somehow. But now for the world, virally, they're going to understand that the more you try to control someone, it pops up, okay, in another way. So if you think about since 2012, Neptune karma. So 2012 was the time where people began to do everything to the fund, to the charity. Okay, I got studies like that. I began to study. And it's not like I maneuvered the system. It's like I lost everything and there was nowhere to go. But there was this one hope that he studies. And so I went for that. Now I see Risperidal is dealing with gigantic lawsuits, one after one after one after one after one. And basically people need to be getting housing. Because it's the housing that went for it, okay? So the roundabout, it comes this way. If you couldn't work and make a good living and get a house, it comes in a roundabout because they took it down so that they will be invested in, so you'll be paying for medical insurance, and then all the money goes to your medicine. But now, for this medicine was hoax. So they went so far with this hoax that they're going to have to give people houses with land, because it's important for nervous system. Now people can't work when they get all this thing, okay? It has to be compatible with claustrophobia and agoraphobia, okay? Now, think about the shilumim. I knew before the war, I knew that the region that have right now war in Israel, going to be paying shilumim. And shilumim is basically the compensation that's paid after war for people that faced war crimes. So, are we going to be addressing the fact that people actually escaped from ghetto? 9 times out of 10, they don't have documents. My grandfather never got the documents. Okay? I'm 3rd generation. Karma, 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 karma. Fuck. I both tend to the satanic ritual abuse that may have caused, okay, a massive problem for the community. At the same time, it's 3 generations that were subjected to persecution within Israel. So, Um, that's just one thing that I think about, like housing. So it can go like this. If you've been with Neptune, if you've been humble, you might not even know what you pondered upon. And if you've been aware that, hey, I deserve for this money, I deserve for that money, you're gonna have to take the biggest battle. Neptune is giant battle, okay? Neptune is the biggest battle. It's not the tiniest battle, it's the biggest battle, and surrender it. If you think about targeted individuals, we're gonna be having masses of them. We have masses of them already. But it's going to create, when you have 1-2 targeted individuals, people think, what is with this person? I can say, I had a Facebook friend. She couldn't find housing, no matter what. She couldn't find housing. Stayed here, stayed there. She gathered the money to buy a house. Couldn't find housing. Everywhere the energy was terrible. And so, thanks to her, I noticed there's something, the spiritual warfare, that gets people out of a real estate. But at first I said to her, see, something with Chiron here, because it seems to be you're very energy sensitive, and it seems to be that you're going to have to comprise for your own solution, but it might be connecting people to houses and the energy there. Something like maybe Feng Shui or something like that. Little did I know. Okay? She very likely is targeted individual. Why? I don't know. Because she's a woman, because she says no, because she changes even with religion. She won't marry just another person. She's religious, but she won't marry just any person they tell her. She wants to be independent as a religious woman. Okay? So there's just a lot. Everybody going through their own thing. I remember years ago she contacted me and she said, oh, maybe you can help me. But because she was dealing with CPTSD, I said, listen, I'm not certified, I'm not qualified, and I don't want to harm. Okay, so if it's, whether it's aromatherapy or just discussions, okay, because you need to set boundaries and so on. I'm self-recovering. But to see this woman's targeted individual, we're going to have masses of them. When you have a masses of something, people begin to, okay, you surrender it, but you also fight the biggest battle. So it's probably going to go very much like 2012 to right now. Okay, so like, hey, 2012 you went to take this shot or this pill or this that, and 2024 is like, oh my God, there have been people particularly mentioned this very medication for intensive side effects, and all the others were horrible too. Okay, so it's like you never had a time to litigate, and I didn't think to litigate because I said, oh, I got a degree from it. Like I got funding for a degree, right? So of course I needed help even without a degree, but it was like I was just like Jupiterian, right? Focusing on the benefit, focusing on the good thing, focusing on the optimism. I was like, no, there's also Saturn karma here, because with Pisces is very avoidant. Okay, I don't want conflict. I don't want. Oh, just it's a situation. I'll deal with it. What is the good thing about the situation I'm dealing in? And then comes Saturn. Now you do not want to mess with a Piscean situation. How should I say it? Neptune karma is just so prolonged. In the sense that, and again, I'm not saying, oh, you don't want to harm a Pisces, because no. The thing is that if you have been aware that you're abusing a Pisces, it might backfire. If you've not been aware, there's the gift of mercy. There's a lot of mercy and grace to Pisces. But if you have been aware and you did it on purpose, it's not a good idea. Okay? Because the thing is, it's the fish out of the water, and it's kind of like the bottle from the ocean lands on the shore, a whale vomits it, and then somebody opens, so the bottle, the archaeological team opens the bottle and say, somebody wrote a message in the bottle, my psychologist is doing da 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 da. I don't know where to turn to. I don't know. No one will believe me. No that. And then when they open that, it's like after masses of people complained about, I don't know, this MK Ultra kidnapping that they've been doing, mind control, and everybody had all the scientific parameters for that. And that one psychologist got away. Okay? And so Neptune, this is a great time for people. Yeah, you thought you could get away with something. No, but the good thing is to be authentic. If you're authentic about this, then there's both a repent, but there's also a deeper understanding and compassion of why were you doing that. Because most cases what the Pisces think is that there was intense helplessness. And when you address that, then you stop the patterns, like addiction, right? If person doesn't have housing, they're disconnected from the root, feet don't step on the ground, what happens? If they don't travel, it's a good thing, but to travel a lot, you need your feet step on the ground a lot. I say that. Feet don't travel, what happens? Disconnected from, addiction, relational addiction, rejection, drugs. That's what's up, okay? And what a person does under drugs. And so this is when we think about the jailing system. It should be about, not about slavery. It's about reconnecting a person to the root, to the soil. To step in bare feet on the soil again. Okay? Connecting the nervous system. So we have so many things associated, and Neptune is going to start a new karma cycle with the conjunction to Saturn. So it's very likely that they're going to be crisis, they're going to be loss, they're going to be both for day charts and night charts, because it's the conjoining of the two malefics. Okay? If you're a night chart, it's going to be about paper, structure, maybe loss of something, and so on and so forth. Okay, you've been served, if it's a business, documents expiring, stuff like that, okay? Loss of a document, okay? To some degree can be even loss of a nationality or something. I mean, I'd be very honest, what I've been exposing around. Okay? It's not that I don't know that there are forces that would like to operate in this way, but they have to be cautious, because whatever is done, the wrongdoing that is done in a 2024, 2025, it is going to be Neptune karma. So you want to be aware, okay? If you've been involved with a given risperidal in a 2012, 2024, okay, you better talk about a housing first and believe the patient, okay? Because for the karma is karma, okay? And I'm gonna let's talk about myself, okay? Because I don't like to put it on others. People can feel like my life is perfect, I never made no mistake. No. When I was homeless in Netherlands, and I was homeless in Israel, it was gigantic thing where, due to helplessness, I did not address the fact that without having taken these pills or these pills, I would have no housing, no income, no nada. I had to start talking about the housing first. I did not know that housing first is a cure for psychosis. And believe the patient, okay? So I found myself with nothing dependent on pandemic. When pandemic stopped, an organization that would come to the shelter to represent us, they wanted to legalize hard drugs. It's very likely associated with the babysine and Deming. What Deming is associated with, I think if you listen to this channel, you know. And I have, and I want to actually express gratitude, because I'm not going to say the name, I don't want to put people on the line, but I know that I have been mentioning the name Hansa Madma, and even to very sensitive, okay, let's say, okay, in forums, and that wasn't cancelled, this wasn't erased, this was not, okay, of course they could not respond, but I want to express my gratitude for that, because it's not a given. It should be a given, but it's not a given. And it's not left unseen that and I want to express deep gratitude for that. Okay, because this is something that is important to all of us. And yeah, that is, and so you want to think about what the wrongdoings that are done. And unfortunately, I like to take it from Victor when he says, Victor from Astro Victor, he says, I'm an optimistic person. And he is. He's a fighter. He says, I'm an optimistic person. When I give prediction to a person, I always say, what can you do about this? So it's optimistic. If you take action, it's optimistic. Okay, that's the guy. But when I think about global level, not all people are aware, not all people take the actions on a global level. Yeah, we see predictions that are malefic. So prediction for the Mars Neptune, and I'm sure that Victor is, as we speak, saying that in another form live right now. I'm going to upload after, so it's not the same time. But the thing is, we're going to have malefic, we're going to have losses, we're going to have wrongs, we're going to have people trying to take papers, nationality, because you talk about long distance travel papers, especially when acquisition of real estates, mergers and acquisitions, okay, limitations and or how should I say it, money laundering, okay, affiliated with those, social credit score and dumbfuckery, okay. I know it has been very few times I said dumbfuckery in this video, so, but dumbfuckery is such a word for the transit, okay. I'm going to delineate that on another time, but I invite you to delineate this in the comments, and we're going to be having a lot of such dumbfuckery, okay. You want to keep in mind that the wrongdoing, stay with the longing. What do you long for? Because you'll be manifesting, and some of its karma is going to be when Saturn is going to be at the end of Aries, okay. Just like when Saturn is approaching end of Pisces, you want to think about where were you when Saturn began Pisces. When Saturn ingressed to Pisces, I was in an Alice in Wonderland satanic ritual abuse program. Had to do with water. Fuck. I heard that. Fuck. Anybody involved with that programming better take a couple of steps back. Because when Saturn exits Pisces, is karma. So, and that had to do with the kidnapped people down the rabbit hole. איתו נבוא, my god, but also איתו מרירון. Dang. So, that is, and I wasn't thinking much because Saturn is a malefic for me. I'm a night chart. But so are they, I guess. And yeah, okay. that shit exposed. But it's also, why were they targeting also me, maybe also kidnapped people for the Alice in Wonderland? What is the point of this programming? Okay, has to do with pedophilia, but I'm 40, right? Maybe something to do with since I was born. I don't know. Something to do with water. Okay, now I talk about the way to comprise of water. You make it a half moon, they hold the water. It's not about grooming. It's not about abuse. It's not about like the drug dealers. I'm going to give you some this, give you some that, give you some that. Now I want to siphon. Anybody been involved with making a real estate trafficking hub? Something with the water. Okay? The water, it comes with a willing consent, not with the imagery, the imitation. Okay? That's the water. Because this water is not to make a human sacrifice and the sex espionages. There ain't no water. So if they want the water, they gotta honor the women, the mothers, the children, the land, the soil. People having land, people having soil, and then we dance on the soil, and there comes the water. But that can't be controlled. That can't be siphoned. That can be, because then what happens is the water depletion. Okay? To all the girlies that not been squirting, you've been with a guy, at first he's cute, you've been in the astral, at first he's nice, but then it seems like they want something that is not in alignment with like your well-being, and the water is not. For some people they get yeasty, okay? For the man, okay, that might be the quality of your semen, the sperm count, the STDs, okay, the difficulties to reach orgasm or to experience orgasm. Also, astral attack is also happening to men, okay, that they can be shape-shifting. Somebody presents themselves as somebody. So you want to, yeah. I've gotten to know some people through that. Okay. So I definitely learned a lot about this. But the same thing, so first wave of karma is going to be when Saturn is going to exit Aries. Because it's at first it's like, oh, it's like Alice in Wonderland, we're no longer in Kansas. You have no idea it has to do with satanic ritual abuse, with programming. Yeah, it ain't nothing. Okay, I'm channeling something. It looks very weird. It's the kidnapped people. Yeah. My darling, you know who you are. I know that it's not necessarily intentional, but you gotta check that programming, because if you do this to people, it's about kidnapping. you. If you have Alice in Wonderland programming, okay? Hi, Niken. It's about kidnapping. Now, doesn't necessarily mean you want to check for, because this could be both of you being kidnapped and to make you programming, so to you would be assisting in the kidnapping of other people. It's programmer. So the Imagination podcast on Beachwood had a post about this of Alice in Wonderland programming, and you want to deprogram. Okay, if you want to begin to deprogram, I know that Imagination podcasts have been, like, people say, oh, they're this, they're that. It's just, this is where I saw this. I also recommend to watch the survivors themselves. And again, you want, yeah, that's something you don't want to use remote viewing to target people. It's going to be used on you. Okay? So you want to understand that and begin to tend to that, because to tend to your freedom and your sovereignty and to recovery. I know it's an intensely intricate topic. And the second wave of karma, we're going to see with Neptune as it reaches the end of Pisces. It is going to meet Aries. Übermensch. So the fact that Neptune at the end of Pisces, I want you to think about Pluto at the end of Capricorn meeting Saturn and Jupiter. So it was both a global pandemic, but it was also a giant I told you so by many people. Anybody that had already been to those things, they know by the time the COVID came, and the doctor said, it's not because of the V. You know, you're like, and your doctor might not even know that. Your doctor might not even know that. Because these are people that have been working in that profession all their lives. So you knew that before your doctor, of what's going on. And so for all the dumbfuckery that is planned for this year, I'd say don't put all your eggs in that basket, because it's gonna karma very malefically. And you know how it goes with this type of investments. We take about real estate. It's not something you can easily withdraw. Okay? It's closed for a certain time. You can't easily liquidate that. Saturn Neptune is karma. When you come to liquidate assets, you want to think about Switzerland. We're gonna hide your money. You come to liquidate it. Liquidate it is withdraw, okay? What money? I want you to think about the euros in Germany that people took out of the ATM and they began to dissolve. I just want us all to look back at that time. Because the question, what money? Okay? Is going to be very relevant. Neptune is also something you have to surrender. So the planned things for Neptune, we have to surrender the result. So we're gonna be seeing really funny things. For example, those that thought to have me dependent on a mental health system to have a degree were probably not predicting my thesis proposal. Okay? Those that wanted me to participate in sexpionage and assassinate perhaps better out the phrase probably weren't predicting that when they will try to target his son, I will say, did you already do something with the WHO, your lawyer? Because Peter spoke against it and he got assassinated. I know. They weren't predicting that. Okay? So, again, certain things can backfire. And I want to emphasize, there will be dumb fuckery. Okay? There will be dumb fuckery. But the karma. And so, why am I saying that? Because Neptune karma is exactly the thing that you think has no karma. And again, if it was not intentional as a gift of grace, because again, sometimes the people need to lie or to cheat or to do crime. Yes, when I was homeless, I needed to steal food at a certain stage, right? Okay. If you are in a cult and you're doing sexual harassment, I did not litigate, but other people did litigate. Sometimes you did that because you needed for the cult to do mind control and to try to recruit for sex espionage, and you weren't really sexually harassing like direction, and then people didn't know what to call it, so they said, yes, they harassed me, they beat me up, they this, they that, because they wanted justice. But they couldn't say what offense was, okay? So I'm saying that. So be very aware for also when you know you did such thing. First, to repent, to correct, okay? But be very aware to sue for defamation. Because if you know you did such thing, and somebody say, yeah, this person this is sex harasser, sex offender, this is this is that, this is human trafficker, this is this is that, and you say, but this I didn't do, this you don't have evidence, you're tarnishing my name, you did on the war crimes, darling, on the war crimes, okay? People want justice, so justice will come, and you don't want to with that, because what you think you're gonna get for the defamation, the backfire. And you know what, with Neptune Saturn, Aries is also our name. So people might, oh, now there's karma, now there's this, now there's that, and there could be even a wrongdoing happening. I hope for the people involved with this that you don't want Neptune karma, you don't want Neptune karma in your life, you don't want Neptune karma, okay? There's a saying in Hebrew that says, Al te'anu beracha ad sheker, okay, which means do not torture your fellow men or women until they have to lie. Okay? I was actually receiving that telepathically from Shani Sarudi, who was my teacher for aromatherapy, and it seems like that was done to her. And that's why she did horrible things, but yes, Al te'anu beracha ad sheker, okay? Do not torture people until they have to lie. Mars is telling the truth. So people that were tortured so much so that they had to lie, both in Pisces, okay, you're gonna see people like, hey, I never consented. I had no housing, And the only way out was to agree to be seen as, to be targeted psychiatrically, okay? Or for somebody, this was human trafficking, or for somebody was drug trafficking, okay? Consent is something that you do when you genuinely have a choice and there are no implications on you saying no. No persecution, no lack of housing and resources, no lack of food, no lack of job. None of those NDAs were consent. Okay? That's heuristics, that's basis. No, you signed the form and you didn't pay attention what you signed. Okay? You have to be understanding what you signed. What are the implications? You have to be able to withdraw the signature easily. No one has right to deprive you of your dignity, your housing, your food, your ability to support yourself and make a good income under no conditions. Even in Norwegian, they're not stupid. This is why in jail people get training, people get, okay? For example, Hansa Madma never consented to be psychiatrically treated, castrated, raped, and had his sperm taken away from him. Under no circumstances is that medical treatment. Psychosis, housing first and believe the patient. Open dialogue was invented in Netherlands before it was practiced in Finland. Okay? So, Saturn is rules, laws, regulation. Mars, law, juristic litigation. You want to be watching very closely for the cases that somebody was sued for defamation because they spoke the truth. Oh, Julian Assange, he had to sign the Espionage Act when he left the Belmarsh. Okay? Karma, 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 karma. He had to say there's nothing on Trump. Just see his children. To go back to the country and spend time with his wife. He must have been given some psychiatric pills in Belmarsh, wasn't he? He was made to be seen as a double agent. When the CIA itself, the highest double agents, tried to assassinate him and admitted they tried to assassinate him. Grew up in cults, yes. Had to do things, maybe filmography, yes. So you want to be particularly cautious where you sue somebody because of your good name, and what it turns out is that this somebody you sued was a whistleblower. Now, I want everybody to take a deep, long breath, because in the beginning, it will be corruption. Okay? In the beginning, it would look like they got the upper hand. You have to surrender this. Either we will have both cases, both when karma is addressed and sovereignty is granted. Because it's the beginning, it's the first degree of Aries. Let's be optimistic, but let's also be realistic here. Some sort of corruption, on a large world scale, everybody tries to do some institutional debt wrong to real estate and drugs and psychiatry with this. In the beginning, they might be successful. So they're going to begin to receive a karma when Saturn enters, ingresses to Taurus, so towards the end of Aries. Okay? So let's say Mars, kind of like Mars, Venus, so it's also like relationships. Let's say husband put wife in psychiatric ward, made of her to look crazy because he did it for a cult. It says to deprive a woman of property, and so it was successful. She was in psychiatric ward, this and that, successful, was everything taken about, just successful. Then she has a rehabilitation. Okay? And it don't make it, she doesn't seem to grow, she doesn't seem to this, she doesn't seem to that, okay? Some a criminal. She met a way back. Says, I tried every single lawyer office that is possible in my country. No one seemed to represent the victims of this offense, only perpetrators. This is a structural conflict. Tachi exposed in Netherlands such a thing. No lawyer office in entire Netherlands represents only victims of sex offenses. They all represent offenders, all of them. Tachi did not find lawyer that does not represent sex offenders in the entire Netherlands. Okay? He is a drug lord. Committed some murders, including Peter Ad de Vries. And he exposed that. That means structurally there is no justice for any sex offenses in entire Netherlands. Tachi's case exposed that. Okay? It's a part of Neptune karma, it's a part of 2012 somehow. I don't know how, I've not been involved in this. But also Pluto. No, not Pluto. It's Neptune. Because drugs. Okay? He exposed this. What happened since 2012 was the juristic system changing. When did they discuss the Deming? With Deming, we had a case where Deming, you could not, it's not about Deming, you couldn't, Supreme Court judge, you could not judge him. You could not, there was no judge. Now, if it's called affiliated, let's say Masonry, it's a global cult, and they're everywhere. So let's say have a conflict of interest. There's no judge. So Tachi represents himself. Okay? It doesn't mean that it's not criminal, that he didn't do bad things, that it is, that it that, but he didn't want to go babysitting. So he represents himself. Okay? You see that, how it plays out. And so, I don't know where the litigation against Tachi came from, because that was, Peter helped the state witness, but that was not, I think, not coming from Peter. So, I don't know. Okay. I don't understand the topic so much, but this is the few that I know. It's just like, oh my God, it's a Tachi representing himself because he didn't find a lawyer that said that. What? I thought the Deming was, oh my God. Okay? The devil ain't had a jurisdiction like this, okay? So, who will represent through the Verstigen? And so this is why I say to you, Mars's names, you want to be extremely cautious. about litigating for defamation when you know you've been doing wrong. Okay? Especially if you've been doing wrong in a hidden, subversive, difficult to diagnose way. On a worldly scale, people are going to do this. It's going to backfire, and the backfire with Neptune. With Neptune, the backfire is a real something, you know. For me, it's going to be my Neptune square. And so, yeah. And if I think about what happened when Pluto was going over Neptune, there was targeting of me because I named astral rape. I didn't know to call it that way. I now know that I was not imagining. And then now it's not only that, I think that what I saw about the person that did that is called affiliated. I saw things that I didn't know where they're from, and they had to do with murder. Even now as I say this, I don't know if like he, or was it, where it's coming from, maybe somebody in the cult, maybe somebody that lived there before, okay, because when you are tortured, then you see things, but there's something there that was involving murder. And I'm not saying that this person that did that and so on, but it's a part of what I saw. And I never talked about this. This is actually the first time that I speak about this. Something to do with cult, something mind controlling. And I blamed myself, and there was no one to turn to. I went to psychologists, he didn't know what I'm talking about. Psychiatrist, nothing. Give me something that is, I don't know. Nada. Decades upon decades of those dumb fuckeries happening to people. And if I think about my Pluto square, it's been tending to the way psychiatric tagging has been used on sexual trauma, and how sexual trauma is used for sex espionage, and how it's related to housing. So if I think about my Neptune square, I don't know. Because with Neptune, ever since I was born, I felt survivor's guilt. I felt guilt, I felt shame that I didn't know where from. And things from childhood that when I talked about it, it was used against me. I think it has to do with this Alice in Wonderland thing. And it's from afar. Okay. Yeah. Anybody who's been to Neptune Square and has tips to give me, I would be very happy. There is also issue of, I wouldn't say plagiarism, but it can be. Okay? I think a lot of people have had ideas and then they saw these ideas. Okay? Inverted sometimes even. When a child is born, they take blood tests. When an infant is born, they take blood tests. Neptune in the sign of Mars is blood. Saturn is satanic ritual use. And they target the blood. As I speak, I'm thinking about that. Yeah. I think also my parents did not tell me a lot of things, so not to scare me, and it's too overwhelming for them to say. But I know for sure there was a lot of like, I was born, immediately, Mom, get me out of hospital. Bye-bye. That's it. Bye. Americans would be like, this is the wet dream of American clinic, because you're like, giving birth and bye. Giving birth, taking baby, ta-ta. Okay? And it was still in a small room in one floor building. Yes. Where parents divorced. She said, I keep a child in the house, but you, I ask nothing of you, no money, no nothing. Fuck. Could keep in contact. Of course, it was his choice to let go. She never told him not to keep in contact with me or not to visit me. Never, never. That was not the case. It's just that it's two countries. And usually the child will stay, but if you live in a certain country, let's say if they live in Netherlands, it would be a problem to bring me to Israel. But if it otherwise is also so, never forbade him to see me, never. Yeah. I never turned to welfare, so they wouldn't. She had to turn to her parents, never to welfare, so they wouldn't check me. Later, she thought she was just paranoid. I was like, Mama, you know, you were not. Oh my God. But I was already grown up. There was one woman at hospital that she knew my daddy, and she told me, my dad, okay, and she told me, the conversation began with the peridot question I had, and she told me that, I don't know why, which is a lot of things, I don't know. Religion community is also very dependent on assistance. For example, when I was homeless in the Netherlands, they said, oh, go to Jewish community. And of course, okay, they're nice and so, but it's like, I don't qualify as what they wanted to give assistance to. And where they tried to put me, I would not come out alive, to be very honest. And the Christian community is like, you're Dutch, okay, so it's kind of what the conditions that are for Dutch, and they were not favored. But it's also okay because there are things I did not know about the church. Even though I saw, you see, yes, the church is very likely Masonic. So that's what I didn't know. Okay, I'm a secular person, I'm possibilist. The priestess, astrologer is nice, but that's very likely Masonic. So those are the people that do those things too. And you see Jupiter in Pisces. I was like, I thought I reached heaven because you see, that's the place I was like, oh, I'd come here every Sunday. Why not? But Saturn hits, it's like, oh, wow. And yeah, but again, it's when you think about karma, it's simply the implication of actions. Okay, implication of the fact that my route out was study, end result, I scientifically tend to the dumbfuckery that is done in the name of science. It was done also to me in the name of science. It's just a series of decisions, okay? And what my thesis proposal about was completely the topic of the medicines and how I got there, and like it's so completely like I was going for like the chaos as an explanation for a scientific paradigm shift. Because of course I have a 12th house Aquarius and the ruler is in the 9th house. And then my professor saw this instructor and he says, well, I see Sierra Bend and I, as a medical doctor, I don't know how to treat a patient. So I went for the applied science and then I went, oh, let's do the medicine. Let's help Danny how to treat a patient. Israelis, we always speak by first name. So, and yeah. And what question you need to question when you look at epistemically is something you need to question. How do you know to know what? Well, the spirit and matter question. Let's see. Let's infer that from the research of what holistic medicine and conventional medicine. Read the research and infer from that what is their perception on the body-mind question and how do they know that they know. It's a very challenging topic. And then my another professor, Avi Segel, for international relations, said, I think only to him I told, except for Danny. He said, you take me back for the days I learned philosophy of science. You're going to have to study so many things by yourself. I'm like, that's why I'm doing that. So there were also good things in academic, okay, for me. And that Avi Segel later, when someone I know that got MK Ultra, but it was Me Too'd by then. Very, very scary. A scary situation also. Lost her father, and then there's someone that she was, her boss was like a confidant, and then he sexually harassed her. Creepy as fuck. And for that, professor was like really supporting of her, like really worried when he heard about it. He didn't know it was her. He was like, okay, there was also that. Going on within. So, yeah. but the squares and the trines and all these outer planets, they are since birth, because okay, you think about the Pluto, natal Pluto and the square in Pluto, natal Neptune and the square in Neptune. For those of you who are my age and have the square, yeah, having Saturn Neptune conjunction for a square, Neptune square, when my natal Neptune is in 1 degree Capricorn, which is Saturn sign, is something. I'm glad that Mars rules that, because I can do something about that. But it does denote that perhaps it will take some Neptune time. But again, those who do stupid, I don't recommend. I don't recommend. This is something that, especially for a person Mars retrograde, because they're like, we're the silent folks, and we'll go on with our life. We didn't even know. If karma hits you, we won't even know that. Which is going on with my life. I was like, oh, there's this blockade. It must be because I took responsibility over my life and did that and did that and did that. And it's like, we don't even check what happened. It's like, oh my God, I can go back to creating things. Hey, it's so lovely. And if it rules over an outer planet, like, Pluto and stuff, and Neptune, and directly Saturn, and Uranus, hey. Okay, that's the part. Yeah, that's like it's a bit of a, it's like you grow your life to think like you're powerless, and so many people try to mold you into something, and then you treat the mold. Okay, so then like, why were they even? And then you understand, it's like, oh, that's what my bloodline does, and it's not a double agent, and it doesn't consent. And the more they try, murder back to sender. So that is, yeah, that's a thing. So yes, all in all, the bad news is that there are probably going to be some worldwide scale of dumb fuckery. And it's going to be conjoined, okay? The good news is that whether Saturn is your malefic of sect or Mars is, there's going to be something you might have to surrender at first, but it's not all bad. I think about my malefic out of sect is ruled by my malefic of sect, okay? So bad things do happen, but I don't wish my enemy to be my enemy, okay? Not because I'm this horrid of a tyrant, but because it just tends to backfire. I purge it from the core. And the more pervasive it is, the more I purge it from the core, the more I expose and Mars's names, okay? So I name it. And if this is a crime against humanity, then because what is crime against humanity is when you cause helplessness to someone that is lethal to them. Okay? And so this is, yeah. Now, if it's opposite for you, you might have people hurting you with Mars, or this, or that, or that. But if Mars is hitting, you're like, you know, your dedication, your perseverance wins the race. Okay? And that can be, people attack you, but you make something out of it. Okay? Not in the sense of like litigation necessarily, but more like you build something that stands the test of time. So you have maybe enemies and stuff like that, but it can also mean that Mars is exalted if it's in Capricorn. So you might have tremendous adversaries, but if Saturn is your team, then you're gonna prevail. And if it's Mars your team, then you just like it's an exalted Mars. You can stand the test of time. You might have to fight for a lot of time, but it stands the test of time for what you achieve. I have to say that to me, from Saturn in Mars sign, yeah, it's been a prolonged tending to, and you understand when I say tending to. There are veterans that come back from World War that would be like, I have a new perspective when I see you, okay? So, for me that was terrible, but that was 3-4 years, okay? I remember when they first wished on me horrid things, and then I met actual rape victims and violence victims, and they told me, you know what was difficult for me the most to recover was the psychological abuse. I'm like, oh. Okay, I'm not here to compare traumas, but it's like, oh. Yeah. Okay. And then I just tending to. Okay. If you understand, you're tending to something that is so gigantic that you cannot say, I'm doing something about that. You're just tending to. And that's the thing, okay? So yeah. Hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up and up it up the algorithm or something.